Good morning and thank you for joining me. We are going to be looking today at our third in their spring series of teacher workshops. And today we're looking at junk puppets, trash into treasure. Thanks to Schools First Center for Creativity and Critical Thinking for sponsoring these series. Hi, you're joining Christine Quinn for this summer art series. The first is puppets. We're going to be looking at how do we recycle and upcycle some of our materials that are lying around our houses and our classrooms and use that for creative purposes. So today we're going to be looking at creating junk puppets. Stay tuned. Our objectives for the day are pretty simple. We want to look at disposable items that we think of generally as trash and turn those into some sort of unique, creative item. And for us today, that's going to be puppets. I use the term puppets loosely because puppets can be created out of anything and have multiple types of movement or even no movement at all. So we'll get to explore some of our ideas, and I don't have one set idea for what a puppet looks like. So I don't want you to think of Pinocchio when I say the word puppets. We're also going to be participating and learning about the idea of upcycling. This whole series has been about using things around the house and upcycling materials that are easily accessible to us as teachers, either with students in their own homes or students in our classrooms. So being part of that upcycling idea is certainly something that has been key in this series of workshops. Today, we're really going to look at using our engineering and designing skills as we build our puppets, and we are going to be looking at how creative we can be. How can I look in at an item, use my artistic creative eye, and see something entirely new and unique? So engineering and design skills are going to be utilized today. All right. Here's a list of materials that I have either collected some of these things or they're good ideas. And you might have all of these items just lying around your house or maybe even in your trash can. So think about not throwing away these items and saving them to use in your classrooms with your students for the future. So you need materials that are going to be the building blocks of your puppets, but then you also are going to need some of those materials that that help to put the puppets together, those tools. So things that you will need besides scraps of paper and paper towel rolls and things like that, you're probably going to want either a hot glue gun or some really strong glue to use on your paper and plastic products. You're probably going to need scissors. You might think about rubber bands, strings. Zip ties are great to put pieces together. Pipe cleaners are really wonderful for little ones. They are easy to manipulate and they connect things well. And all of those items that we're going to use to assemble, you might even use maybe brads and paper hole punchers to use with the little ones as well. So we can also use string, wire, popsicle sticks, straws, you name it. Anything that you can think of will be great. I want to share with you some of the materials that I have collected for this project, and they really are things that I might have otherwise thrown away, but I have a little stash of things that I think, maybe someday I might be able to use those in an art project. Maybe you have some of these things hanging around the house too. The first thing that I have is tissue paper. All of the things that we get at the store are packed in tissue paper, so hang on to that tissue paper. Cardboard. with all our Amazon shopping that's happening, we have a lot of pieces of cardboard and boxes. You all have these lying around your house. Don't throw them away. Start collecting them. Toilet paper tubes. I have things like fruit bags. I don't know what this material will be used for, but I think it's interesting. It adds texture and color, so I'm saving that. I also am going to save some water bottles because I like the shape. I think maybe I might be able to make a body of a puppet with water bottles. Something else to think about, I have some empty pill bottles and those might work. I also have yogurt cups. Any sort of containers of food that might work would be great. Egg cartons. Now, if you have the cardboard paper kind, those are even better, but the ones that I get at Costco are plastic, so I'm gonna be saving those and looking through different shapes and things like that. Something else that I think about a lot is bubble wrap. So I might be able to use that for a puppet. And if I can't use it for my puppet, it's great for making texture in my art journaling as background. So never throw away bubble wrap. Anytime you find packaging materials that kind of have this unique structure, this came with a particular package and I liked that it was already slightly structured. So I'm gonna save that. The other thing are just things like cellophane that might be used and anything else that comes to mind. And that's what you get from. All right, so as you can see, even the cat likes to get in on the action of creating junk puppets. All right, so let's talk for a second about what upcycling is. First of all, we see this wonderful image of a junk puppet, and you can see some of these items that they have used. I see newspaper, I see bubble wrap, I see masking tape, I see maybe bottle caps, and maybe that cute face is made out of felt. So we can also use some of our materials from our crafts materials that are not necessarily trash. Okay, so upcycling is taking an item that might otherwise be discarded and creating something that is of higher quality or value than the original object. That's the idea of upcycling and reusing. That idea of adding value. And remember that value is like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So maybe this item might have gone to the trash can, or maybe it might have even been sitting in storage for a while. Upcycling also involves repurposing and reusing, refreshing and revamping, reviving and creating. So when you're upcycling something, you're catching that item before it enters into the waste system and goes to the landfill or the recycling. Hello, Alondra, welcome to our workshop, and I've just got it started, so thanks for joining me. All right, why are we going to make junk puppets? Well, I'm always looking for things that my students can do in the classroom that are creative, that do not require them to recreate something to look a certain way. I'm very big on using creativity and innovative skills to create something new and unique. I also want my kids connecting with physical materials, and I want them engaging in hands-on projects. To use your imagination in a new way to build something that you've never seen before, that takes innovation. And there are very creative people who can look at very simple objects, such as a plastic spoon, and make it into a whole new creation. In fact, create a movie around this character. So you've seen Forky from Toy Story 4. And if we think about, if you go to Disneyland, you can buy these toys Children are carrying around purchased Forkies from the Disney store, and I think, why? Just please take them home and let them recreate this puppet by themselves. So innovation, imaginations, creativity. These are the skills we want to foster. I also love this idea of content integration. So anything that I can do in the classroom where I can meet multiple content standards is a good use of my time. Puppets, and specifically when we are building some sort of structure, incorporates the visual and performing arts content standards. It looks at the next generation science standards and the ideas of design and engineering. And then certainly when we're collaborating and building and creating, the language arts content standards come into play. And we can even use these puppets as writing prompts. They can be used as another speaker. So students can be developing their speaking skills, their writing skills, and certainly their listening skills as well. So we want to make sure that we are utilizing our time in the classroom wisely. Our instructional minutes are limited, and when I can integrate content in a useful and meaningful way and creative way, then I feel like it's a win-win situation. Excuse me. So I spent a little bit of time just looking at some of the content standards and pulled out a few that I think are relevant to this project. Now, depending upon the grade level that you're at, you may find different standards in your grade level that meet this criteria, but here are some of the main ones that I pulled out. And I'm looking generally at middle, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. So our visual and performing arts standards have those 11 anchor standards at every single grade level. And the anchor standards at each grade level are very similar. They differ in complexity at each grade level, but they are generally the same. When I look at anchor number one, generate and conceptualize artistic ideas and work, certainly this is going to need some conceptualization. Anchor standard number two talks about organizing and developing artistic ideas and work. So these two anchor standards are core when creating these junk puppets. If I look at my English language arts standards, here's just a few. I could spend a lot more time and pull other standards as well, but these were the ones that jumped out to me. So literacy standards for speaking and listening at grades 3, 4, and 5. Each one looks at comprehension and collaboration. This project can be done individually, but there's even more power when we can have our students collaborate and create collectively in groups. So that's a different choice to go about this project. Common Core standard also looks at presentation of knowledge and ideas and the knowledge of language. This activity is going to require all of those skills and strategies. And then when I looked at the next generation science standards and the engineering design, I found one at the middle school level as well. I don't want to focus just on my little ones. I think that these activities are good for all grade levels. And if we look at the engineering standard, it says define the criteria and constraints of a design problem with sufficient precision to ensure successful solution. Okay, you're going to see as you're creating your puppets and your designs out of these pieces that are not necessarily designed for this project, that you're going to come across some engineering problems that you're going to have to solve. So I love this standard, even though it's a middle school standard. I want all of my students from kindergarten through 12th grade involved in problem solving and trying to engineer new solutions to problems. So it certainly is a standards-based activity. The other idea is when we are connecting our upcycling, we're looking at our environmental sciences as well. We know that this is a large problem. It's a global problem. What are we doing with our trash? Where is it going? What can we do about it? And what happens if we don't do something about it? So for the little ones, and also, again, for any age, I love to tie literature into all of my activities. And I think that this is the perfect place for Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. And here's a great, if you know The Lorax, you know this line. But now, says the one slit, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seemed perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. So if we want to use that as an inspiration to get our kids thinking about reusing, recycling, upcycling, we can make those literature ties as well. All right, let's start thinking about the ideas of trash into treasure. I've pulled some images that I think are creative and got me thinking about how could I create a puppet. And I got these images from this amazing website called trashpuppets.com. And this organization is actually out of Australia. And it is a professional organization that actually works with corporate professionals and business people, educators, and they actually do workshops not only for children, but for employees that work together. So there's wonderful videos and there's wonderful images there if you want to check that out. And if you're going to use this with your students and expand ideas, that is a good place to start. So if we look at these images, again, I can pick out just what some of these things are. I can see that that snake is made out of egg cartons. He's put together with string, and there might be just one string that makes his spine. He's created like a marionette puppet, a string puppet. Then I see a puppet that is made out of aluminum cans and a plastic bottle. So that puppet does not necessarily move. That puppet might be slightly stationary. That's okay. Puppets do not need to have movement to be a puppet. I see a turtle down here that's made out of maybe yogurt cups, Dixie cups, spoons. And again, they've connected it to strings to make a marionette. You don't need to make a marionette in order to make a puppet, but if that is your choice, you can. And with my students, what I like to do is show them a lot of ideas, give them a lot of different materials, and let them create. Some of them might come up with those ideas already. I think that we always tend to think that we have to show students how to do something. And my philosophy is that the exact opposite. If you show them ideas and have them figure it out, then they're learning a lot more through that process by trying to problem solve. Okay, I see this amazing kind of little owl. Maybe he looks like a raccoon. I don't know what he looks like, but he's made out of egg cartons, and they've chosen that egg carton to make the eyes and the nose. And then I see that he's probably got maybe some cardboard around him, maybe some newspaper. So you can see very simple materials. That bunny in the corner is made out of tissue paper. So are your ideas already thinking? When you show these kinds of pictures to your students, their ideas start to generate. There's more images at that website as well, and then you know where else to find images of these ideas. So when we're building our puppets, we have to consider two different steps. The first step is in the design of our puppet. What's it going to look like? What materials are we going to use? Do we have the right size of things? Do we have an idea of Is it going to be a creature? Is it going to be a robot? Is it going to be maybe a nondescript item? But usually most things, even when they're mechanical, like a robot, have three parts, and that is a body, head, and limbs. So we're going to think about those three things, three parts: body, head, and limbs. And those limbs could be a lot of different things, right? If I'm making a robot, maybe that limb is going to be some sort of base or footing that can create a stand for my puppet. So once I have the design ideas, then I can think about the construction. So now, how is this puppet going to be built? Do I want it to have moving parts? Or will it be more like a structure? Maybe it doesn't have moving parts. That's okay. It can still be considered a puppet. And if it's going to have moving parts, how will I attach the pieces so that they do have movement? Okay, so those are going to be the areas where we start to encounter our design and engineering questions and answers. All right, do you need more ideas? Look at these amazing creatures. That upper left-hand corner shows us what we can do simply with either detergent bottles, soap bottles. You can see how simple an idea can be and how effective it can look as a puppet or a creature or a character by simply adding feathers or some felt or some googly eyes. All right. That alligator is simply made out of egg cartons. You can see very specifically those egg cartons. You didn't even need to do too many cuts to make that alligator. The one in the center inspires me. I just love this. I think it kind of looks like a deer. I don't know, but I love those long legs, those paper towels. And I'm going to try to create something along those lines with those long legs today. I think that I'm kind of inspired by that. And the little guy in the corner, I don't know what he is, but he's just darling. I think he's just a fluff. He is definitely got tissue paper. It looks like maybe his eyes might be made out of maybe toilet paper rolls that have been slit and made smaller. Also think about using your old upcycled material. If you were with me for Fabulous Fabrics, you might still have some of those fabrics left over that you could use. So again, some ideas. Are your creative juices flowing? All right. We're going to start the fun part now. Now is the part where we're going to build. Now, I want to make sure before we move to our build part and I turn off the PowerPoint, that you can always email me if you have questions or things that you want to share, or certainly I love seeing how these activities are utilized in your own classrooms. And I want to remind you too that we have a summer art journaling series for teachers, art journaling for mental wellness. And those sessions will be 2-day art journaling sessions, really focused on revamping and re-energizing ourselves in the summer. I hope that you got the information on that. Our first class starts on a Monday and Tuesday. And then if you are interested in looking at a very good TED Talk, here is a link to it, and I will be putting that link into the chat. So any questions before we get started here? Okay, so the way that I start is I look at all of my materials, and you're going to see I have a very large box of materials, and I have decided to go through this box and pull out some items that I'm going to use. So here's what I have pulled out. I'm going to use my favorite item, my Starbucks cards. I'm trying to find my camera here. And I've got some toilet paper rolls. I've got some ribbon, empty ribbon schools. The cup that goes with the Starbucks cup, I have a, this is from Diced Peaches, things that you put in your kids' lunch. And I have a sleeve. Do you see a theme this morning? Yes. All right. When I'm thinking about how do I want to pull these things together, I have all of these elastics. You may recognize these from my face coverings. And my daughter always says, Mom, make sure that you pull these off before you throw away your mask or recycle your mask, because we don't want those getting into the ocean and fish getting caught. So I have a lot of these. Maybe you have these as well. I think those are going to be useful. And then another thing that I think is really useful are pipe cleaners. So I also may need to use my glue gun. Okay. So sometimes is the only answer is gluing that. Now I want to show you a creature that I made earlier. Let's see if we can pull this here. And okay, so I made this creature earlier, and I think he's kind of adorable. And you can see that he doesn't have a lot of moving parts, but he does have a moving head. And I love how he kind of has this free moving head. So I want to talk you through this for a second, and then we're going to try and make it a whole entire new one. So I started with the bottle that you can see. His legs are made from toilet paper rolls. And then I decided he needed feet. So I cut the paper towel roll in half to make him have a little bit of footing. And then the question comes, how am I going to create connections? How am I going to connect these things? I found that if I connected it with a wire, a pipe cleaner, I ran this pipe cleaner all the way up to the bottle. So I'll show you how I did that. And then I gave him arms simply by poking holes in the bottle, running a pipe cleaner through, and then I decided he needed a little shirt with sleeves. So I took my masks, made it kind of like a little denim shirt for him, just tied it with regular string. Then I thought, my goodness, what am I going to do with this head? Okay, so I'm going to kind of take him apart a little bit. I left this unattached so that he could have the movement part. I liked that. But I needed to find some way to set it more than just on the bottle, because I liked the idea of having a neck. So here's where the engineering has to come by. I decided that if I could take a wire, again, my pipe cleaner, I decided that I was going to poke a hole through the lid. What are you poking holes with, Christine? All right. This you may or may not have in the classroom. This may or may not want in the classroom. And that is an awl. Okay. If we have little ones in the classroom, of course, we don't want to use this awl. But you could have a teacher station where they come to you and say, I need a hole here. Maybe you might have a few parent helpers. Maybe it's just you, but it does not take much. You could sit at the teacher station and create those spaces. So I ran the wire through there. I decided that I needed a loop to get through the top of the lid. This came on. Now I'm trying to figure out how I did it. And this creature, since it already has a hole, that wire I'm trying to make sure I got the right camera. That wire pops right through. And then the nice part is that I've got this malleable piece of wire, okay, that I can then press down that would keep it there, but it still has movement. I liked that. To create my head, I used a yogurt cup. And to create the eyes, I used the egg carton. What I found is that the plastic egg carton is difficult to work with, and I wouldn't bring it into my classroom unless I had older students. I would go for the paper ones. They're just more malleable. But what I did was I was able to create some kind of goggles with this piece. And then, as with anything, it's better if it has Google eyes, right? All of a sudden that brings it to life. So I actually glued a little pom-pom underneath inside the cup. And then I decided he was hot glued. And I decided he needed some sort of pipe cleaners on the side to make glasses. And then his silly hair came from a fruit bag. So you can see that I cut that. Now I've engineered this so that he can have free movement. And in fact, if he is talking, then he doesn't even need to have any more movement than that. I can simply move him by tilting him, and he can shake, and he still has a lot of personality. What do you think? All right. So I think that students would love doing these. So we're going to try today to create something entirely new. So this was my idea from a few days ago. Today I have new ideas. All right. You saw the materials that I have. And the first thing that I'm going to do, and I think this is a good idea for students to do as well, and it is what engineers would do. The first thing that we would do is we would create a design on paper, a blueprint. So I've come up with a blueprint that is, let's see if I can pin this one again. All right, I've come up with a blueprint for the idea that I want to build, and you can see him here. I have this idea about using the cup for a body. I want to remove this one. Hold on one second, please. Okay, there we go. So I want to use the cup for the body. I'm going to use the sleeve for part of the face, and I'll show you what I was thinking while I was creating this. Look at what is on this sleeve. I said, oh my gosh, it's already a puppet face right there. So I'm going to utilize that. I love that idea. Okay, I'm going to use this cup as a hat, and I might put a plume on that hat. We'll see. I want to make his arms, or its arms, this one is pretty gender neutral, out of paper towels. I'm going to use long legs on this puppet, and you can see I've already started to problem solve some of my engineering skills, and I'll show you what I've done with that later. It's going to have some big stompy feet, which is going to require these spools. All right. Any questions before we get building? So you can see I've worked out some of my engineering designs here. I've decided that I need to use ties here. I'm going to tie my arms on. And I've decided, I've played around with my little materials a little bit, and I thought, how am I going to connect my paper towel rolls to the cup? I decided the best way to do that was going to be through making a reinforcement with paper towel, or I'm sorry, popsicle sticks. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. let's try it. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my glue gun just in case I need that. I don't know that I will, but we are going to start. I'm going to start with the body of my puppet right here. Okay, so I want to attach arms to the body. I want to attach arms. And I think the best way to do that is using a elastic. And if I punch 2 holes, I can loop it through. And if I punch 2 holes here, I can thread those through, and then I can tie it. I've used the awl to create those holes. Older students can use the tips of scissors, or maybe even you can think of different ideas that would be appropriate for your kids. Okay, so I've got that connected. Now I'm simply going to tie a knot so that that is going to have a little bit of movement. And I don't know how, I don't want them to be too tight. So I'm just going to tie a little double knot there. Okay. Now I did one. Now I'm going to do the other side. Again, I'm going to use this tool. You decide what's smart and good for your students. I'm going to come back over here and make 2 holes. Two holes here. All right, I need another elastic. I'm going to push this through this hole. Need my holes to be a little bit bigger. When you could use ribbon, you could use string, you could use shoelaces. The shoelaces have that nice plastic piece on the end that has a special name that I can never remember what it's called, but that can be used as well, so that's a little easier to get through those holes. Okay. So of course, when push comes to shove and you're on camera, it's not as easy, right? Engineering designs, make that hole a little bit bigger, persevere, don't give up, all those skills that we want our students to have, right? Okay. All right. I've got that side done. This side's a little bit easier because I don't have to go from the inside. I can go from the outside. I've got that one in. Here we go. One more. Good. I like it. I'm going to tie that together. I want him to be fairly tight because I don't want his arms. I want him to have movement, but not being too floppy. So I'm going to use a double knot. Here's something else to think about with our students. I have a friend who is teaching a summer macrame class, and she was surprised to find that some of her kids, even her older kids, weren't really able to tie knots. Okay, it's coming together. I have the body, I have the arms. I like the way that that's going to go. If I'm looking again at my illustration, what do I have to do next? All right, I am now going to attach the legs, and I want the legs to be attached to this body here. I thought that the best way to do this would be to glue a popsicle stick so that I can glue this popsicle stick to the inside of the cup. So I'm going to try that. Let's see if my glue is hot yet. Yes, it is. I'm going to glue this. This would be a little bit easier than trying to attach with things like strings or wires or elastics like you saw. But I don't want to make things easy for my kids all the time, right? How do we learn? We learn through struggle and through perseverance and through determination. So I don't always want my kids to take the easy way out for our purposes. And in the classroom too, we sometimes have to worry about time, don't we? All right. That is going to allow my legs to attach. And I see that my puppet is coming along. He's got legs, or it has legs, it has arms. And soon it's going to be able to stand. Right now, you can see in my upper thing here that I need feet. How will I attach these feet? All right. Certainly I could glue it, but I want to think about other ways to attach this. So I think I might use pipe cleaners. Let's see if I can use pipe cleaners to attach these. This is nice because it already has a hole. So all I'm going to need to do is somehow put a hole into the tube so that I can attach it. Now, if you don't like awls in the classroom, you might be able, here's an idea. Why not use a paper, a hole punch? So let's try that this time. I'm going to punch a hole here and punch a hole here. Okay, little ones can use hole punches. Little ones can use pipe cleaners. And I'm simply going to use that like this. And how will we attach it? Well, what happens if I just attach it this way? Will I like the way that that works? I don't know. We'll find out. There's one. You can see that the pipe cleaner is an easier tool. It's pretty malleable. For little ones, we don't have to be too precise trying to get items through holes. Okay, I think, let's see if he'll stand now, or it will stand. Whoops, his foot. Engineering, design, problem solving. Okay. Okay. Now, let's see if we can get this guy up a little bit here. I'll readjust it so you can see him here. All right. So I've got the base of my puppet. I've got the body. I've got the arms. I've got the legs. And now I want to think about what am I going to do with the head. So I go back to my drawing because I've pre-engineered this. I've designed this. And I decided that this piece here was going to be used as the head. Now, this is going to be a fairly easy piece. Just going to invert that. And guess what? I don't even really need to attach him. I can slide him down in between these, and I don't even need to attach him because he fits perfectly, right? Or they fit perfectly. All right, it's coming together. I like it. I like it. Now, this creature, I think needs a hat, some sort of hat. So what are we going to do? Do you like that idea? You like that idea? I like that idea. My goodness, it's really coming along. Okay, so how am I going to attach that? Again, I can hot glue, or I could tie it together if I want to punch a hole into the sides here and here. Then it might even create an opportunity to create some hair. Let's play around with it and see what happens. Okay, I have my cup. Can I punch a hole in the plastic cup? Yes, works great, works just great if you can get it back out. I love it, it worked great. All right, so I know for little ones, we can use hole punches in paper, we can use hole punches in plastic. Both of those would work. It is a little trying to get the hole punch out. I now have 2 holes in this cup. I think what I will do is I will punch the holes, and I want them to be fairly close in proximity. So I'm actually going to take my pencil and put a mark where I need to punch. All right. Do my holes line up? Yes, they do. Now, how can I tie that together? Well, I can go back to my elastics. I have a lot of those. I also have some string here. Maybe let's try some string so that we're using different materials. I also want to show you one other idea, and that would be this. I'm thinking can create some hair. What if we used brads? What if we used brads? Could that work? Not in this situation, but it could have worked here with the arms. It could have worked there, but it's not going to work with the cup. I needed to visualize that before I found out, no, that would not be the right things. So let's take our string. Since I have a larger hole here, I'm going to use 2 strings because I think it's going to add some texture of kind of like, it's going to end up looking a little bit like hair. And we're going to put our 2 strings through here. I'm going to tie this hat on. Okay. Tie that hat. And we're going to tie this other hat with 2 strings. Here we go. You see how much thought process and engineering this requires? It really requires some problem solving. Now I'm finding that even though I measured it, it's not quite working. Look, it's a little askew. So now what am I going to have to do? What am I going to have to do? Rethink it, readjust. I'm going to have to move that hole, and I'm going to have to move it all the way over here. And I couldn't tell from the very beginning. I couldn't tell where that hole was because it was the cylinder was flat. So now that it is dimensional, I see that I need to put that hole all the way over here. Now let's try it. Problem solving, problem solving. If I can teach my kids problem solving, critical thinking, I feel like I've done my job. They can make it through life. Think, right? Think. Don't look for answers in a book. Think, create, problem solve, come up with a new idea. Google gets tired after a while. All right. It's coming together. He's got a hat. Now, we're going to come back to this larger structure here for a second. And need to adjust my camera here. Here we go. This structure, I need to adjust it even more. It's time to create the top. Because this is a little bit bigger, I can simply slide him right on the top, right on the top. All right, now let's see if I can get a really good view of this creature. Here he comes. Dun, 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 dun. He can walk. He can wave. He can shake his head. And he can dance. He can stomp. He can do a lot of different things. All right. So there's today's creation. And I'm going to move now to questions. Okay. So I see that we are set and ready to go, and I feel like my puppet's complete. So that is our junk puppets. I'm going to say goodbye to our recording. Thank you for joining me.